welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. And we say the quiet stuff out loud every single day because we need to. And you should be saying it with your family, with your neighbors. We need to talk about this stuff, folks. We can't just keep being silent. We need to talk about hard subjects, and we need to demand answers, and we need to make decisions for ourselves. The early voting is going on around the country, and they're getting really high numbers. I had Steve Schleicher, the clerk and recorder, in here on Thursday, and the numbers are still pretty low here, and he thinks it's because the ballot initiative, because the ballot, it's such a big ballot that people are taking the time. But here's the deal. If you haven't opened yours up yet, open it up, read through it. It's long, it's confusing. If you think on a normal year, you're gonna open it up and in 10 minutes you're gonna make decisions, it's going to freak you out a little bit. You got to study this stuff, and there's tons of voter guides, and the one that I recommend is the one that I put out, which is Church Voter Guides. And go to churchvoterguides.org, and we have the candidate voter guide that we've been doing for almost 4 years, where we survey the candidates and we print their answers verbatim. So no editorializing. We don't have an opinion at Church Voter Guides. We just print it. And so that's for the candidates. We decided to tackle the ballot initiatives this year, which is very interesting, is how do you tackle ballot initiatives without having an opinion? Well, we've done it by providing a level of information that you won't really find in other places. So it's part of the ecosystem. So go to churchvoterguides.org, and when you get there, you'll find the candidate voter guide in a downloadable PDF and mobile friendly, the ballot one also, and about 5 days ago, we added a link for other voter guides. So there's a whole list of other voter guides from all over the political spectrum, including on judges, which is people keep saying, what about the judges? And there's ones that have opinion about the ballot initiatives and about candidates. So go on there and just, fill up with all the information. And then, of course, as we say, vote your values. Get informed and vote your values. So we have on the program today, as we are discussing recreational marijuana, for and against, competing ballot initiatives of 2D and 300 if you're in Colorado Springs. This is for Colorado Springs voters. And we have Joel Sorensen on our program today, and he is an official spokesperson for the initiative to go, to shoot down having recreational marijuana. It's called the Colorado Springs Safe Neighborhood Coalition. Joel, again, welcome to the Peak.
Thanks so much for having me on.
So let's talk about 2D and 300 in this segment, and then if we have time, hopefully get into a little controversy about something that you politically grabbed onto when Democrats seemingly put up something saying that they're against recreational marijuana, and you saw it, you put it out, and then there's been some controversy, and we like to do that in this segment. But first, let's look at 2D and 300. Just if you could let us know, I know 2D is from the legislature, 300 is from a citizens initiative. How would you describe them, first off, these two initiatives, so people can wrap their mind around them?
Sure. Very simply put, question 300 legalizes recreational marijuana sales in Colorado Springs.
Which currently is illegal.
Correct.
Okay.
And question 2D was referred by the city council, as you mentioned, and it prohibits recreational marijuana sales in Colorado Springs.
So people are seeing that as a conflict, that maybe the city council isn't going to allow the people to have a say on this because they're trying to sort of override it no matter what happens. What is your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a mischaracterization. I think that question 300 is written in such a confusing way that it intends to have voters believe that it is restricting marijuana sales, recreational marijuana sales, and in fact it's legalizing it. When it talks about how it's just limiting it to medical marijuana dispensaries, the language in there makes the voter on first glance, and it's a very confusing, long initiative. You mentioned ballot issues should be clear. This is anything but clear, and intentionally.
Actually, there's a law in the state that they have to be written clearly, but they never are.
Yeah, definitely not this one, at least. And so the city council put 2D on the ballot in order to ensure, because 2D is extremely clearly written, it's just simply to prohibit recreational marijuana sales in Colorado Springs, and it puts that in the city charter. The ordinance, they added an ordinance later which said that there needed to be a mile limit from schools and rehab facilities, which seems like a completely reasonable thing if you're not selling recreational marijuana to kids and drug addicts.
So if you look at it, the ballot question for 2D is, shall the charter of the city of Colorado Springs be amended? Oh, no, excuse me, that's 2D. Yes, add a new section to 130 article prohibiting retail marijuana establishments within the city of Colorado Springs. So this would be a charter amendment. 300, the question says, shall the ordinances of the city of Colorado be amended to authorize only existing medical marijuana licensees to apply to become licensed as retail recreational marijuana businesses, subject to all applicable taxes, including the existing 5% sales tax on retail/recreational marijuana, to generate revenue for public safety programs, mental health services, and post-traumatic stress disorder treatment programs for veterans. And then it goes into limitations that would be put on it, as you mentioned, and the Gazette editorial board agree that it's written in a confusing way where people don't understand, hey, it's already illegal, you can only have medical, and this would grant those licensees some hundred that exist rights. And so read everything, and definitely one thing that we provide is you can go on churchvoterguide.org, and under this ballot we actually have the charter amendment that would come into place. We have other information that's there, so you can read it fully, not just what is on the ballot. But what happens if they both win? That's a question, because we have one you get to vote on yes or no that says it would prohibit it. We have one that you can vote yes or no on that says that you would allow it. I've read that Colorado has a law to deal with such things since 2017, that if there are competing ballot amendments, the one that gets the most votes supersedes on all the conflict. Doesn't necessarily overturn the other, but it supersedes on all the conflict. But there's a question here that a city ordinance might supersede a ballot amendment. What's your take? I guess I had Michael Allen, our DA, on here, and he said we're heading for a lawsuit if that happens. Most likely.
Right, absolutely. And if they both pass, by the way, it's a good indication of the fact that 300 is incredibly confusing, because it will mean that people voted yes on 2D and yes on 300, which means that it's moderates and conservatives who are being duped by the recreational marijuana industry and its proponents that would like this to be
Now, let's say 2 years ago, people voted no by only 0.5% or 1% on legalizing it, but they voted for the tax money. So sometimes these ballot initiatives being single subject can be confusing.
Indeed.
Okay.
As to your question about whether or not the ordinance or the charter amendment would take precedence, an imperfect analogy, but the best one, is that a charter amendment, or the city charter, is analogous to the United States Constitution. The Constitution supersedes any statute, any law that would come before it, and it's adjudicated, as this will certainly be. But the city charter should take precedence because it is putting it into our Constitution.
So most likely we're headed for a lawsuit. We have less than a minute left. Tell us about this controversy with the Democratic Party supposedly opposing recreational marijuana.
Yeah, again, to the point of issue 300 being confusingly written, it's so confusing that it tripped an entire political party in El Paso County. The El Paso County Democrats posted on their website and on their Facebook different language and a thorough and true scathing rebuke of recreational marijuana sales in Colorado Springs on the basis, on a left-wing argument.
Well, they thought it was being regulated too much.
Exactly.
Right.
Which was, and 300 was written in order to sort of split the baby here and be like, well, we're regulating it, but we're also legalizing it. Scathing rebuke. The campaign took screenshots of the endorsement and then blasted it out to the citizens.
To try to get a no from the Democrats too, and then the Democrats, they criticized you and said they didn't mean it.
Right, exactly. Which would be, it's just
so read about this. It's an interesting side story within it. Did they really make a mistake? Did they believe it and recant? We'll leave that up to you. Not really the issue. The issue is how are you going to vote on 2D and 300. When we come back, we're talking high potency THC. Okay.
How's it going?
Good.
Good.
I'm glad we actually, thank you for talking fast.
Yeah.
Because we actually I was like, can we?
I heard the music. I
Can
was
we
like,
go
oh,
to this?
I
Yeah,
gotta
the
stop.
music is. I got 30 seconds to get out, so we gotta. Okay, cool. We actually did it all.
So this is the rant next?
What? This is your
Yeah,
This
okay.
is your rant or op-ed or however you want to do it. So have you written down some?
Oh, yeah. I have,
Have you written down some bullet points?
yes.
Okay, and so if we could, have you picked which myths
Yes.
you want to do? Okay.
There are three.
Which myths do you want to do?
I want to tackle the. Hang on, where did I find this? I want to tackle the one about crime, attracting homelessness and drug addicts, and youth use.
Okay, so crime first,
Yes.
then homelessness.
Yes.
Homeless.
Where's my?
And youth. Okay. Let me find those.
Ah, there it is.
Okay, so increasing crime, hurting businesses, straining government services, that one?
Yes.
Okay, and so that's first one. Okay. And allowing will lead to increased use among youth, 3, and this is 2.
Yeah.
Okay. If we can, if we have time, we'll do the tax one,
Okay.
about how the taxes do never get to where they're.
Yeah. And every dollar in tax revenue is associated with foreign costs.
With what?
With $4 in costs to the
Really?
emergency response systems. You increase traffic accidents, increase teen suicide, increase crime, massively increase crime. Despite what that myths and facts sheet says.
Okay, we're back in 30.
Alright.
And, okay, but that's the next segment, this one, let's focus back on. So again, deliver it, keep going, you'll see me do 3, 2, 1, and this means 30 seconds, so that's when you gotta land, you have
Sure.
30 seconds to finish your thought. And you'll pace it as you go, you'll see how much time it really is. But
Okay.
keep the energy up, and
I will.
if not, you'll see me do that. Okay, where are we? Segment 3 here. Oh, no, sorry, 30 seconds left, I forgot. That's right, this is a 3.5 minute break. It's my one long break, so I tend to forget. Okay, that.
For where to find information, say the name of the committee on YouTube. Search
what is it?
Colorado Springs Safe Neighborhood Coalition. Search it on
Okay.
YouTube.
Okay, let's remind me at the break. Okay. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Hein Goldman, the Watchman. We say the quiet stuff out loud here on the Peak, and in this episode we're saying the quiet stuff out loud about ballot amendments 2D and 300, just Colorado Springs, but this is about recreational marijuana. 2D saying that no, prohibiting recreational marijuana, just limiting it to the medical marijuana and the approximately 100 shops that are currently here. 300 would allow those shops to convert over to recreational shops under some levels of regulation. And we have Joel Sorensen, who is an official spokesperson for the Colorado Springs Safe Neighborhood Coalition, which is running the campaign of yes on 2D, no on 300. And in this segment, as I like to do, is give the guests sort of free rein to give their opinion on something. And Joel said he wanted to talk about the effects of high potency THC in the marijuana these days. Joel Sorensen.
Thanks very much. One of the major issues that we see with recreational marijuana sales are that public perception has not caught up to the most recent research on high potency THC in marijuana. The hippie weed that you think of at Woodstock concerts in 1960, this is not the same drug. The THC is the psychoactive element ingredient in marijuana. What you think of when you think of hippie weed has about 3% THC. Today's weed is lab designed, chemically engineered to have as much THC as it can, up to 99% THC. It is highly, highly potent. And it has massive effects. There was a New York Times study that just came out about a week ago that said that you have an increasing connection between schizophrenia and psychoactive consequences of CBD. 1/3 of users above the age of 18, of marijuana users, recreational marijuana users, important to note that distinction, have reported symptoms of cannabis-related disorders. That is a massive problem. It's not a problem that you would have seen a half century ago. And the problem is that the industry benefits from the ability to have this perception of weed that it's the same thing that it was when your grandparents were using it. It's not. So I think that's a massive, critical thing to understand. Another thing that's very important to understand with it is that this ballot issue, as the proponents often point out, you can go to Manitou or any nearby city, for the most part, and find recreational marijuana sales. This isn't about limiting access to recreational marijuana. It's about whether or not recreational marijuana stores are right for Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs is the home of five military bases. It's the home to over 200 schools. We've repeatedly said that we don't want this in our city. This time, the proponents have decided to craft a ballot measure that they think will dupe the citizens of the city into passing it. They know they have to do that because Colorado Springs does not support recreational marijuana sales in the city. There's a litany of reasons to do so. The high potency THC being the biggest among them, because the cascading effects of high THC marijuana and this high potency stuff is that you have massively increased crime in neighborhoods surrounding stores. You have much higher teen suicide rates. Denver's teen suicide rate is significantly higher than Colorado Springs, and the percentage of marijuana in the victims of suicide is much higher in Denver than it is in Colorado Springs, where this stuff is legal. We've already seen the consequences of this since legalizing it statewide in 2012, but we haven't gotten the worst of it because Colorado Springs has been able to avoid getting the stores here. And now, if Colorado Springs voters aren't duped by this deceptive ballot language, we're going to say no again.
When you're differentiating on this, just for people, that there are these concentrates that go up to 99%. That's almost like a crack. It's like a THC crack.
Right.
But even the flower, the plant marijuana is in the area of what? It's like 16 to 20 something percent is what.
I'm not sure,
okay.
and what part of the problem is that today's products are not just the plant. It's designed into all sorts of different products that are
concentrates.
Exactly.
Concentrates.
Exactly.
So, but your point that it was 3% 20,
right.
30 years ago, and now even if it's 15, 20, 25%,
yes,
that's very high potency, and we're starting to see mental effects, schizophrenic, other types
especially
of effects,
in kids.
and it was thought that marijuana is completely harmless in this area, but that's not what we're seeing now that it's been mass legalized. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. We're talking marijuana on the ballot. We'll be right back. Okay, cool. Great. It's a Volvo.
How's it going?
What?
Yeah, how's it going?
Yeah, good.
Good.
Okay, so I will again bring up that we wanted to have a representative, so we're going to try to represent their side using their primary website.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll read the myth from their website and then let you address it.
Sounds good.
And we're back in a minute.
Okay.
And this is, it's responsiblerec.org, right?
Probably.
It's funny, cause it sounds like a wreck. It's a responsible.
Yeah. WR.
I know they wanted the kid, yeah,
Yeah.
WR. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. And as the election is going on right now, yes it is, you can fill out your ballot and turn it in. But Election Day, November 5th, in just about a week, 7 p.m., got to get your ballot in or vote in person. Please don't check out. Please don't decide that it's too confusing. Because I've given you a resource. It's called Church Voter Guides. You don't have to be a Christian because it's not about picking Christian candidates. We did this because the church tends to not get involved in politics, and so it's a 501c3 compliant nonpartisan guide. But what we do, which I just think is great, which is why we did it, which is we survey the candidates, we publish their answers up to 120 words per answer, exactly as they send it to us, even typos. And then we give it to you so you can read what the candidates have to say and definitely read between the lines. But when it comes to ballot initiatives, we also tackled that too, and that's there, but without an opinion, just information. You can read the full text of things. And so one of the things that we have on there is this battle between 2D and 300, whether recreational marijuana should be allowed in Colorado Springs. And so if you're a Colorado Springs city voter, this is going to be on your ballot. So we hope you find this helpful. Joel Sorensen joins us for the hour. He's an official spokesperson for the Colorado Springs Safe Neighborhood Coalition, and they're running a campaign for 2D and against 300. And as I admitted at the beginning of the program, we didn't do a good enough job, I don't think, with enough lead time to try to get, we like to have civil discussions and have people from both sides discussing things. We did on the whole hunting bobcats and lynx last Monday. But today we didn't, so we want to fairly represent the other side, and thankfully they have a website, and it is responsible REC, like recreational marijuana, responsiblerec.com, and they have a whole bunch of myths, what they claim to be the myths, and then the rebuttal of that myth, that are common arguments here. And so we're going to go through a couple of those, but we want them to be fairly represented. Again, sorry we didn't bring them on or a representative on. So go to that website and check it out. But we picked a couple of these, and I'm going to read what it says on their website, and then Joel Sorensen. Joel, again, thanks for being on the Peak.
Thank you.
Joel is going to respond. So, myth one, the legalization of recreational marijuana will harm the city by increasing crime, hurting businesses, and straining government services. Fact, evidence from cities that have legalized recreational marijuana show the opposite. A regulated cannabis market helps reduce crime by displacing the illicit market, boost local economies through job creation and increased revenue, and support government services and significant tax contributors. A regulated environment also provides safer products and better age restriction enforcement, as well as promotes responsible use through education. I'm going to give you a chance for a rebuttal of this, but what they are saying is no worrying about crime hurting businesses and straining government services, because the facts don't support that, and those who are saying that, they would just say are probably fear-mongering. Joel, what is your rebuttal to that?
Yeah, the facts are precisely the opposite of what those facts said. There's a study that I have in front of me from CU that says that in neighborhoods in Denver, that after Denver legalized recreational marijuana sales, in neighborhoods surrounding the recreational marijuana sales, crime went up, not 10%, not 20%, 1,000%. It was tenfold the amount of crime that was previously there. That's one issue.
And this is moving from shops that were already medical and moving to, or just the shops coming in, period?
Just the shops coming in, period.
Okay.
Recreational, as soon as recreational sales were legalized, and I don't know if they were medical previously,
Okay.
but I know that it was after they were recreational that it spiked 1,000% in the surrounding neighborhoods. To the point about the tax revenue, There's studies that show that every dollar in tax revenue that is received is associated with $4 in costs. Why would that be? Because there is increased traffic accidents in Denver. The amount of traffic accidents that have THC in their system is significantly higher than in Colorado Springs, and it makes traffic accidents much more common. Youth suicide, I mentioned this earlier, but in Denver, 55% of youth suicides had THC in their system. In Colorado Springs, 23% of youth suicides had THC in their system, which demonstrates, by the way, that we have still not seen the worst consequences of statewide legalization because we've kept it out of our city. Now, I also want to point out the fact that this is often considered this sort of older person's issue, where it's just a bunch of people who are grumpy that don't want the kids to be smoking marijuana. It's my generation. It's young people that are being duped because they think that this stuff is harmless, and it is actually not, because it is high THC and it is demonstrably linked to suicide and depression and other mental health issues, including schizophrenia. So that's just two. There's multiple reasons that this is associated with significant increases in costs.
Okay, so how about those who say, well, but people can go over to Manitou, people can go up to Palmer Lake, like they can get it, and that better to not have people driving to go get it, better to have, all of that it's actually good. What is your response to that? If it's already here, why is making it more accessible going to lead, in your opinion, to so much more crime and strain on services?
Well, again, our city has not experienced the worst effects of having recreational stores, and we get the best of both worlds, where people who really need this can go to Manitou, they can go to Palmer Lake or Monument. But we, in our city, have 20%, 30% lower THC systems in youth suicides. We don't have this problem of massively spiking crime. We have spiking crime all around the country. Why would we invite more when the evidence clearly bears that out? That would be the gist of why. It's because we've been sheltered from this problem.
Okay, let me get on to the second one, which those are proponents of 300, and you can get this off their website, responsiblerec.com. Second myth: recreational marijuana stores will attract homeless people and drug addicts from other states. They claim, factually, Colorado State University study on poverty and homelessness demonstrates that cannabis legalization is not linked to an increase in poverty. Additionally, according to Kathy Alderman, Vice President of Communications at the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, the primary drivers of homelessness in Colorado are rising housing costs, utility expenses, and the overall cost of living, not marijuana availability. And for example, in 2016, Black Hills Energy disconnected utilities from over 7,000 homes in Pueblo, making it one of the leading causes of homelessness in the area. This is according to the website of the proponents of 300. What is your opinion on converting stores or adding recreational marijuana to about 100 medical stores here, how that would attract homelessness and drug addicts from other areas, other states?
When Colorado first legalized recreational marijuana, fully 1/3 of the homeless population in Colorado reported to have come here because of recreational marijuana sales. So that, first of all. Second of all, the retiring CEO of the Springs Rescue Mission, Jack Briggs, has been publicly opposed to this, and he has said publicly that he has never experienced in his time at the Springs Rescue Mission a single person experiencing homelessness that did not begin with recreational marijuana.
Okay. Now, of course, when Colorado legalized it about 10 years ago, that was unique. Now that other states are legalizing it, do you think that the appeal of people coming from other states here and becoming homeless has dropped, has diminished because of that?
No, for the same reason that there is a fight to get it legalized in Colorado Springs. If that was the case, then presumably there'd be no problem going to Manitou or Palmer Lake. There is an incentive to come to a place that has it legalized, and I think the social cohesion of our city should be protected.
Okay. Third myth, according to responsiblerec.com, proponents of ballot initiative 300: allowing recreational marijuana will lead to increased use among youth, and their facts that they state on their site. Numerous studies have shown no increase in teen marijuana use following legalization. On the contrary, a major report from the American Medical Association found that youth cannabis has decreased in states that legalized marijuana. Recreational marijuana leads to mental illness. Recreational marijuana leads to mental illness, including psychosis. That's interesting that that's here. There is no conclusive evidence that cannabis causes long-term changes in the brain associated with altered behaviors. While rare, cannabis-induced psychosis mainly affects those with pre-existing mental conditions or genetic predispositions. A comprehensive 2022 study found that there are fewer than 0.1% of marijuana users experiencing psychotic symptoms requiring medical intervention, and a regulated market with education and safer products offers better support to at-risk populations than to uncontrolled black market. And part of their initiative is regulating it, saying it will be allowed to be sold recreationally, but with limitations, and you should read what those are. What is your response, Joel, to that it does not lead to increased use among youth?
Yeah, this just frustrates me to no end. Nothing of what you just read is true. Absolutely none of it. The fact is that since 2008, 80% of those in grades 9 through 12 have increased. The usage among grades 9 through 12 has increased 80%. I mean, it has been massively normalized. Legalizing it normalizes it, and the closer that schools are to drugstores, the more accessible it's going to be to them. The fact that the proponents of this were opposed to a mile buffer to schools tells you all that you need to know about it. It is wild the degree to which the new studies from the New York Times, there was a report out this week from King's College which shows that high THC actually impacts your DNA. But kids don't know this, and legalizing it and normalizing it in our city is just going to continue to further this problem when high THC is absolutely having the opposite effect of what the proponents are claiming it is. They're talking about it as though it's some great alternative medication, when in fact it is highly potent and highly dangerous for these kids. The amount of people. There's a Colorado student named Johnny Stack. You may have heard his story. This has been big in the legislature over the last few years. Was a kid who thought this exact thing. He thought that that it was a harmless drug. It was what his grandparents may have smoked it a little bit. He was hooked on it, and he ultimately killed himself because he didn't understand the problems because of normalization of this thing.
Okay, should recreational marijuana be legalized in the city limits of Colorado Springs? That's what's on the ballot with questions 2D and 300, competing amendments, ballot questions. What do you think? When we come back, we're going to get a little deeper into this of why is this even on the ballot. I'm Chaim Goldman. We'll be right back. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes. How much time I got for Jim?
You've got 2:30 for Jim.
Okay, so I need
your
500.
laptop there has gone down, by the way.
I know I know.
Can you go ahead and log back into that?
Yeah, I don't know whether it's worth it at this point.
Yeah, I was checking the stream. The audio has been up the whole time. The picture's just frozen.
Okay.
So it's worth trying to see if we can get that back up again. It's a Salem update.
Yeah, well,
darn updates.
I already did it this morning, and okay, so it's saying live.
Yeah, we should be good now.
Okay.
Yeah, all it did is shut off the webcam driver when it did that, but it kept the audio running.
Okay, well.
So, yeah.
Okay, hey, whoever's listening. Okay, so, in this, and
did I say it all right? 2:30 on the gym ramp. I might have said it already.
So the exact
Yeah.
amount. So I have 5.
Yep.
So I have 5. Okay.
Correct.
So, and what's it on? It's on marking your.
It's on misleading ballot, like names or a yes vote is a no vote, stuff kind of like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
300.
Okay. Okay. So we want to sort of bring it down a little bit as we get to the end.
Yeah. Okay.
Is why do we think that this is on the ballot?
Mm-hmm.
One is like what is the motivation of the people who are behind it? And then secondly, let's talk about city council, because city council was even talking about, okay, well, if it passes, then we're going to make it a mile, right? They already did, right?
Yes.
So they already did. So, which seems, and I know Dave Donaldson was like, let's wait to see if it passes first, because it seems sort of obstructionist. And, is this why we have the city council? Well, it does. I mean, if people do vote it in, then for the city council to make it, because effectively by making it a mile, the overlapping circles, I mean, where there's a school or a whatever area, makes it like it's basically not in the city. So it basically wipes out what could potentially be the vote of the people. So I want to be honest on that.
Okay.
I mean,
I have a different perspective, but I think.
I mean, don't you think that that's what they're
The 1,000-foot limit is completely arbitrary. There's no rhyme or reason to the 1,000
Well,
foot
so
limit.
is
It's
the,
just a
so
thing.
is the 6-foot distancing.
Yeah. So a mile is safer. If we want, if our
But,
desires to protect
effectively,
kids,
there's hardly any place in the city that's not within a mile of one of these.
which should demonstrate the fact that it is inappropriate in Colorado Springs,
Okay.
because you have a school every 5 feet. Why
Okay.
should you have
I
recreational
may
marijuana?
play devil's advocate.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're back in 10. Welcome back. Well, check. There we go. My headphone. I'm having a problem with my headphones. Okay, welcome to live radio, folks. On the Peak, I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer, and we're finishing up the show with Joel Sorensen, who is an official spokesperson for the Colorado Springs Safe Neighborhood Coalition, which is running a campaign for Question 2D and against 300 regarding prohibiting and recreational marijuana, not allowing it. We've talked about the amendments, or the ballot initiatives, we've talked about what happens if they both win. It's probably going to end up with a lawsuit because nobody's exactly sure what happens if they both win. But I'm going to do two things in the remaining time that we have. One is ask Joel what he thinks really is behind this ballot amendment. Secondly, the City Council has already taken moves to basically block 300 if it wins by doing sort of a jujitsu move on it. And so I wanted to talk about that. But first, Joel, we want to represent again. I wish they were on the program. We try to get people on. I don't think we did a good enough job trying to do that. But so we want to represent them fairly, and you can go to responsiblerec.com for their arguing on the other side that you shot down and said there's a lot of falsehoods there. What do you think is behind this? Because it's talking about using tax revenues to help veterans, and there's always these noble causes. But what do you think is behind those who are behind 300?
I think that the El Paso County Democrats' scathing condemnation of 300 before they reversed it is exactly correct on this question, which is that I think that it is addiction for profit enterprises that need this to come tap a new market. I think that's entirely what's behind it.
Okay, I read a comment in One Thing. You can tell me whether this is true, that the initiative against it is being funded by recreational pot shops in Pueblo and other places. Is that true? Are they giving money to you in order to strike this down? Because it would be better for their business.
It would be completely inappropriate for me to comment on who's funding the campaign.
Okay, so you can't tell us?
No.
Okay, this isn't public information.
No.
It's not.
You'll see it on November 1st when the next campaign finance report comes out on the Colorado Springs website. You'll see the campaign finance disclosure.
Okay, but this is something that I read, but you're not confirming or denying this information.
No, as a matter
Okay.
of campaign strategy, it would be malpractice.
Okay, so what I would say is that would be normal. People pour in money to things, and sometimes politics does make strange bedfellows. So I wouldn't fault you for it. I just wanted to find out and ask this question, but I respect the fact that you're not answering it. So in finishing up, we have about a minute and a half left. There's a move that the City Council has already done that if 300 passes, which part of that regulation says 1,000 feet, there cannot be a recreational shop within 1,000 feet of, I guess, schools and other sensitive places. City Council has already made it a mile, which if you look at the overlapping circles, it basically bans it from the city because there's very few places that do that. People are calling this, I'm playing devil's advocate, people are saying that this is obstructionist and they're not letting it have its play with the people. Dave Donaldson, Councilman Donaldson, asked the fact that they wait to vote on it, but they decided to vote on it, and I think it was like 7-2 approves it. What's your take on the City Council sort of boxing out 300? Is that their role? Should they be doing it to protect the city? What do you think?
I don't consider it boxing it out. I think
Okay.
that the 1,000-foot limit is arbitrary. There's no science behind it. I think City Council wanted to keep kids safe, and 1 mile seems completely reasonable to me. I think that if the consequence of keeping recreational marijuana sales a mile away from the people who even the proponents would suggest should not get a hold of it it results in not very many marijuana shops, it is further evidence that this is not right for our city.
Okay, we've given out the website, responsiblerec.com, for the proponents of 300. Where should people go to get more information who are against recreational marijuana?
Yeah, search us at the Colorado Springs Safe Neighborhood Coalition on YouTube, and you'll see a litany of opponents to it, including the current and former mayor, Yemi.
Okay, Colorado Springs Safe Neighborhood Coalition on YouTube?
Yes, sir.
On YouTube. Joel Sorensen, thanks so much for being on the Peak.
Thank you.
And now Jim Miller and the Peak rants about confusing ballot initiatives. Sorry if that was sort of gotcha.
No, that's
I had read that and I forgot to discuss it with you. So.
That's all good.
Okay, let's listen to what Jim has to say. Cool. So I have a 2-minute close and
Okay.
then I'm done.
Sounds good.
So what else are you involved in? By the way, we're on live stream, so.
Okay.
I forget. I did sometimes that we're
No,
not.
it's all good.
We're still on mic when we're off mic.
all sorts of things. This is
Yeah.
the big one.
Okay.
But yeah, there are
Okay.
a few others.
Okay. Well, we're looking. I'm trying to put something together for our election day show to have a bunch of different people in here. I
Yeah.
don't know if you know Jason Lupo,
Mm-hmm.
and just whenever like Daily Wire does their stuff, they just have a bunch of people like smoking cigars and
Yes.
just talking stuff. So by the time we get to election day, it's almost like people made up their minds. So let's just do a show. Let's do a little punditry
Yeah.
and like
Sounds
what
fun.
do we think? What do we think is going to happen? Nationally, like just throw out some stuff of where do we think the country is, and at that point we'll have the voting data of who's
Yes.
been right. So
Yep.
so we can at least talk about that factually, but really we're just going to be like in a holding pattern to see what's going on, so we can have some fun with it, and I think sort of joke around a little bit, lessen the tone. I mean, I honestly, I think, and I've been saying this for quite a while, is I think that everybody's going to vote for Trump, but they're going to declare Kamala the winner.
Really?
And just like they did in Venezuela, they just did that. And the media is going to declare. I hope I'm wrong. Like I hope I'm like this is off base, but I just keep getting this
Yeah.
that they're going to do that. And then if they don't, there's that will they certify Trump, right? But I think that based on what we're seeing that happened in France, that happened in England, that happened in Venezuela, these people are willing to do anything, and that the media, I mean, Venezuela, it looks like the guy, you know, the reformer won, but now he had to flee the country. I mean, even America said he won, but nobody was defending it. And then the question becomes, and Elon Musk was saying this at the Madison Square Garden rally, and Tucker Carlson was, I don't know if you had a chance to watch stuff from Trump had a big rally in Madison Square Garden.
Okay.
With Hulk Hogan and Tucker Carlson
seen
and
it.
JFK, and like everybody was there. And I started watching clips, and Tucker was saying like, yeah, like Kamala's going to get like 75 million votes because she's so popular and everything. And he was obviously saying it sarcastically.
Sure.
That I think that everybody's going to know, because now we're having college students, we're having African American, like everybody's saying they're voting for Trump. They're going to declare her the winner, and the question is, will America rise up or will it bow?
Yeah.
And based on the data we're getting about how passive the church is and everything else, I think we might bow.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be in a lot of trouble. I don't know. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, but that's.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on The Peak. There's just a week left to the election, so this is what I want you to do. If you haven't opened up the ballot yet, start studying it, because you got about a week. Now, there's a lot of resources you can get, and I didn't mention this yet, but we actually had Jim Miller, just a guy, come into the studio a couple weeks ago. We went through the Blue Book and these local Colorado Springs initiatives, and we came out with just a guide. It's just Jim Miller sort of ranting about these things. We're doing it for entertainment purposes only, but if you'd like a little bit of humor and a perspective from Jim, go to thepeak.news. That's our website. Just click on the Just a Guide tab at the top, and we have a whole 1 hour video of Jim and me going on about ballot initiatives. And while you're there on thepeak.news, you might want to check out our podcast. We've been doing this since January. We have a lot of great podcasts. And also you might want to consider joining us and saying the quiet stuff out loud with us. We have a vision that we will have citizen journalists all over the city bringing the media accountability and transparency that we desperately need. And we want you to join us. So go there and check that out. And also, if you have a business or an organization, consider becoming a Peak partner sponsor like Springs Dentist and Dr. Craig Summer Holistic Dentistry in Colorado Springs. Well, we air Monday through Thursday, 3 to 4 p.m. here on The Answer. So we'll be back tomorrow with Vicki Tompkins, and possibly trying to get someone from the local Democratic Party to talk about party politics issues and things like that. So join us tomorrow for that. And then on Wednesday, we're doing Amendment 79, constitutional abortion, and going into that deeper, and you'll have to tune in to see who we have for that. We're still working that out. Stay tuned for the Larry Elder Show coming up next on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. Until then, keep saying the quiet stuff out loud and make sure to vote and encourage others to do so. We have to shout it from the rooftop, folks. This is our region, this is our country, and we need to exercise our rights. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to The Peak. For such a time as this, we do what we do. Shalom.